Did you know that Black, Indigenous, people of color influencers typically are earning 29% less than their white counterparts?
29%.
29% less. Specifically, Black influencers are often earning 35% less.
Welcome to the Women Rewriting the Rules podcast, a production by Gush Living. I'm your host, Sumi.
And I'm your host, Ashley. And this is where modern women gather to navigate our way through the maze of personal, financial, and emotional challenges,
Create confidence in our independence,
take control of our finances,
and achieve ambitious goals, all while loving the life we're currently living.
But before we get into the content for today, we want to share something really exciting with you.
We are offering a really fun incentive for our day ones, our founding listeners, to help us get this content into the ears of other women who could benefit from it. So if you love this content and you show us your love, we want to pamper you by offering you our very first giveaway, which is a spa day at the Four Seasons Hotel.
So if you want a chance to win, there are just 3 simple steps you can take to get entered. First things first, go ahead and follow this podcast on your podcast app of choice. Next, you're going to write us a short review with a 5-star rating. And third, go ahead and share your review on your IG story and tag us at Gush Living. It's really that easy.
And once you tag us, we'll pick one lucky winner on January 1st. So get your reviews and shares in now. Let's start the show. All right, Ashley, this is our very first episode of our podcast.
I know, it's super exciting. It's inaugural, dare I say presidential.
I love that.
Well, I think to get started, since it's the very first episode, maybe we can tell people a little bit about why we decided to start the podcast. I mean, there really isn't enough content like the content we plan to create. And also give folks a little bit of information on our background so they know exactly who they're following. And I think it would be awesome to talk about all of the topics we plan to cover in the future. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So, thinking about content, there are some crazy statistics out there. Did you know that Black, Indigenous, people of color influencers typically are earning 29% less than their white counterparts?
29%.
29% less. Specifically, Black influencers are often earning 35% less than their white counterparts in the content creator space, which is wild.
That's just disturbing and something that definitely should be talked about and figured out how to be rectified.
I know it's really interesting looking at some of those numbers and realizing that so much of the content that's created for people of color is stereotypical to a certain extent. Like, I
Mhm.
know as a Black woman, a lot of the content that I see that would be relevant to me is around hair tutorials. And that's great. But I also want to see people that look like me who are talking about other things like finance and love and relationships and careers, just some of the things that we plan on talking about. I don't know. What has your experience been like when you're trying to find good content to consume?
Absolutely. I tend to agree with you. I feel like for me, representation is so important and looking at the content out there, whether it be around growing your business or, stepping into the next level of leadership and leadership capacity. It's like, it's either like old white men or, if it is women, let's be honest, usually white women. And so I
Girl
think
boss.
girl boss movement. And so I think it's one of our motivators in starting this is to be a resource for women of color and just to bring a little more depth and substance to the conversation around living a good life and what that really looks like.
Absolutely. It's so much easier for me. I can only speak for myself, but when I can learn from people that have been through the things that I've been through, have some of the same background and experience, it just makes you feel really seen. And so I'm really excited for the content we're going to create. But speaking of that, maybe it would be nice to tell people a little bit more about us and exactly who we are and where we come from. I think it's really important to have some insight into who you're following. I don't know about you, but there have been a couple of times that I've followed gurus or, people that were positioned as leaders in certain areas. And then I've learned that maybe they had some not so great characteristics that didn't align.
Mhm.
So yeah, let's hear a little bit about Sumi Krishnan, super amazing woman who started and built a multi-million dollar consulting business at a
Mhm.
young age. Like, tell us, like, how did you make that happen?
Yeah, sure. Well, first I'll start out with, life is really good right now for me. I feel like I'm finally doing the work that I've always wanted to do as a recording artist here in LA and co-founder of our media company Gush. And I'm living by the beach and enjoying this active outdoor lifestyle. And I've made a community of people around me that I really love. But I'll be honest, it wasn't always like that. In fact, I spent a lot of years pretty miserable while I tried to figure things out. Um, as the daughter of two immigrant parents from India, grew up in sort of a chaotic childhood environment. We moved around a ton and I went to 5 different elementary schools in 6 years.
That's
And
so
it
many.
was crazy. And, basically spent much of my life, childhood, daydreaming and wishing life was different because I was just being made fun of all the time for being quote unquote foreign, even though I'm American, foreign and not dressing fashionably and being new every year. Right. And I still tried to be, a good Indian daughter. And I went to college and I studied electrical engineering because I thought that's what my parents wanted me to do. I ended up graduating and then after college, starting a government contracting company with the mentorship of many people, and one was my father. Again, not because it was what I wanted to do, but it was because I thought that's what I should do. And so we ended up growing that company over, more than 10 years. I was the president of that company, and we grew it to over $20 million in yearly revenue, and we had 200 plus employees. But it wasn't easy doing that, And in fact, I still remember the story of our first major contract win. Picture this. I'm 25 years old, right? I'm in this middle of this conference room in a sea of men wearing black suits and slapping each other on the back, exchanging golf stories and business cards. And they were all CEOs of companies in my industry that I was competing against. And here I was, this short Indian woman,
Not a part of the good old boys club.
definitely not, making my way through this sea of men to the front of the room because I was committed to introducing myself to the speaker of this conference who had just announced an opportunity that they were looking to partner with one small business on a healthcare consulting opportunity that would generate about $2 million in annual revenue. That was more money than I had ever dreamed of. Or
That's
like,
massive.
yeah, it was just like, what? And so I remember that moment where I said to myself, I'm going to have the courage and determination to do whatever I need to do or whatever is in my power to position my company as the company that they decide to partner with. So I made my way through this sea of men, my heart literally like pounding in my chest, behind my red suit jacket and my feet shaking in my heels out of nerves. And I said to the guy, I said, nice to meet you. Look out for our proposal from K4. We're definitely the company you're going to want to partner with. And when I think back, it was sort of this like unwavering perseverance and resourcefulness and really the right mentorship too that enabled us to. We actually were the company that won that contract. And that win turned into our first major contract win, which propelled the next win and the next win and the next win. And so my company was growing and it was great, right? Life was good. We were winning awards, we were being recognized. And then what I started to realize was while my company was growing, I felt myself shrinking. I felt
Oof.
like every time we went after another contract or we had another pitch meeting or we sent in another proposal, my company grew and I shrank.
Do you think that was stemming just from, like, the unknown or discomfort? Like, where do you feel like that feeling came from?
I wasn't aligned with the work. I wasn't nothing about the work really suited me or my what I was good at or my personality or what I was interested in. I wasn't interested in it, unfortunately, but I put on a good show.
Of course, as every power woman does.
I put on a really good show. Um, and I remember, I was working all the time. My friends stopped calling. My dating life was pretty non-existent. I was gaining weight and developing health issues that were like doctors couldn't diagnose. It was all mystery and caused likely by the stress of the overwork and undersleeping. And anyways, I had this moment. I plopped down on my purple couch and I was ready to eat my late dinner out of my tub of Thai takeout food.
Not a
when
tub.
It was definitely a tub. It suddenly hit me, and I had that moment where I said, this can't be it. This can't be all there is to life. And I couldn't fathom continuing to live a life that was making me money, but literally stealing from every other aspect of me.
Yes.
So that moment prompted many years of self-discovery and a journey of, I went to India and I studied under various gurus and I learned meditation practices and various spirituality philosophies. And um, I did therapy and learned about my triggers and patterns and shadows and, all this stuff that's not fun, but I knew I had to do it and I wanted to do it. And then I actually, started to explore parts of me that were totally asleep. I started learning to play the guitar and I started learning to sing. And then I also started coaching other women entrepreneurs on how to build and scale their passion based companies. And that started to bring me to life again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like the passion was then interjected, even if it wasn't fully your own passion, it was your client's passion and being a part of that.
Well, and I just love, working with women and talking to them about growing their businesses and their life. And so that part was super aligned. And so I think once I started healing myself and getting healthier and started to dabble in things that I actually felt alive when I was doing them, led me to finally figuring out how to sell my government contracting company, which I did a few years ago.
Congratulations,
Thank
successful exit, female
you.
founder.
Yes. And I will own that and help and encourage, other women to get to the same point in their life. And move across country to LA. And, as far as I have ever been from my 15 plus family members in the DC area. And now, living a life as a recording artist, pursuing music and, as co-founder of our media company, Gush, working to inspire, support other women.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for asking.
Of course.
And what about you? So you are also, extremely successful, high achieving woman. You are a professor at USC and a curriculum creator there. And you are a consultant to Fortune 50 brands on their marketing and branding strategies. So tell us how you got there and what your kind of story is.
Yeah, so it all started with cows in my backyard. I grew up in a teeny tiny town in East Texas, literally more cows than people. I woke up to the sounds of moos every morning, and fresh cut grass, which is still a smell that just it
I
takes
love
me back
that.
and makes me really happy.
Hmm.
But I grew up in a really small town in Texas, single mom. We lived with my mom's parents and my grandparents. So I actually grew up in a multi-generational household,
Mhm.
which some people may think is odd. To me, it was really empowering, just the relationships that I had with both my mom and my grandparents. Super grateful for that and the time that I've spent with them and the connections that we have. But yeah, I decided when I really didn't actually want to go to college. I guess I should go back. I didn't even want to go to college, but my mom sort of twisted my arm and was like, no, like you're going to go to college because you're going to be the first person in our family who's going to go to college and graduate. So went to school kind of far away from my hometown just to make sure that I didn't go back
Mm,
home every single
mhm.
weekend, which I think was key because
You said first person in your family to go to college?
yeah, first person to graduate. Yeah, my mom went to college and took her a couple of years to eventually end up getting an associate's degree, but I was the first person to get a bachelor's degree.
Mhm.
So that was felt like a really amazing accomplishment and graduated and realized that I didn't like what I had studied and it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I took all of the skills that I had learned in college, put a little bit of a spin on it. The web was starting to grow at that time. Social media was becoming popular. So I just decided I was going to call myself a digital PR person and
Okay.
people bought it
Ooh,
somehow.
you made it up and people bought it.
I
I love
did.
it.
Sometimes you got to fake it till you make it.
Mhm.
So I called myself a digital PR person, started getting jobs, getting experience at different companies of different sizes, including Fortune 500 brands, and then found my way working mostly in corporate communications for large companies like JCPenney, AT&T, either somewhere in digital or somewhere in corp comm working on messaging and promoting campaigns and building campaigns and rebranding. And I really just had this amazing career and was
Mhm.
excited to climb the corporate ladder. But I also had a similar moment to you where I
Mm.
realized there had to be more to life. So I was working at this really large company, had worked really, really hard on this rebrand, had averaged 3 hours of sleep a night
Oh, no.
for an
Oh,
entire
no.
week
Oh, no.
while we were just trying to get this project off the ground. And
Mhm.
so I had been told that, oh, I worked really hard and there was a promotion that was coming my way.
Okay.
I was really excited about that. Then I was told I had to move in order to get that promotion to a new city where I didn't know anyone, didn't have any family. And I really didn't want to do it. There was this
Mhm.
pit in my stomach that was like, you like your life now as it is, and you shouldn't move. But I was afraid that if I didn't go along with the status quo and what I was being told, that opportunity would disappear. So I bit the bullet. I moved, even though I wasn't excited about it. And after I got there, I was told that I didn't seem happy enough
At work.
at work. I was told by the person that I was reporting to at the time that I just wasn't smiling enough
Mm.
in the office. And I just didn't seem happy enough to be there. And I just wasn't going to enough happy hours and drinking with everyone after
Ugh.
work. And I had this moment of realizing that one, I had been duped. And so I'd fallen into this trap of doing what I thought that I had to do to climb the corporate ladder, to be successful. And even after doing all of that, making all of these sacrifices, I still wasn't going to get promoted. So at that moment, I don't know what it was, like something snapped in me. I went outside, called my mom, cried, of course, the tears
Wait a
of,
minute. You made the move because you were promised a promotion.
yes,
And instead of a promotion, you got you're not happy enough.
yes. Instead of a promotion, I got told that I wasn't happy enough, smiley enough, and didn't drink enough.
What about your work? The thing that would matter.
You would think that it would
Right,
matter, but,
right.
like, that's one of the things about being in mainstream corporate America, and maybe some people can relate to this,
Mhm.
but so often, like, I was raised to think that hard work pays off. Like, that's what
Mhm.
I heard my entire life. I come from
Mhm.
a blue collar family, and
Mhm.
everyone said, "Work really hard, it'll pay off." And a lot of times it doesn't.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, especially for women and especially for women of color,
Mhm.
there's this whole emotional aspect of the labor that you're doing in the office. And there's a saying that I've heard before where at times women go from pet to threat. So when you start at a large company and you're a woman of color, people enjoy the whimsy of having someone who's a little different and having someone in the office who has a different culture and who has different experiences. But when you are there and you're actually contributing, there are people that get really intimidated by that.
Right.
And in that intimidation, you become a threat.
Mhm.
And so instead of looking at the work that you're doing, even if it's really good work, people will find anything that they can grab onto to be a reason that you're not good enough for the job. And for me, it was my smile. My smile
Right.
wasn't smiling enough.
Right. Right.
So went through that experience and something really snapped in me that F this. Like, I don't want to climb this corporate ladder anymore if this
Okay.
is what it's going to be like. And I also went on a journey of personal development. I started learning about different energy healing modalities. I learned about plant medicine. I learned about Tantra. I just wanted to learn more about myself, who I was, and what actually made me happy, what made me tick, and what were the things that made me me. And in that process, I woke up one morning and decided to quit that job and left corporate and decided to just build my own path that led me to moving out to LA. I did some work in the startup space in Silicon Beach for a while and then decided to start consulting my own clients. I really wanted to work with brands that were bringing good into the world, not
Mm.
just to shareholders like I
Yeah.
experienced in my corporate career. I wanted to work with people that were really making a difference, making an impact in the communities that needed it. And working for myself and being an entrepreneur allowed me to hand select the clients that I wanted to work with
Mhm.
and really focus on that impact. So I've been doing that for the past few years. And then also, kind of random, a friend one day was like, "You're really good at marketing and you're so passionate when you talk about it. Have you ever thought about teaching?" And it made me think back to this moment that I had had in 2012. I remember it very distinctly. I had woken up and this little voice was like, "You're meant to teach people marketing."
Mm.
And I kind of ignored it. And then when my friend made that comment, it brought that idea back to me. And so I started
Mm.
teaching, and she was an amazing friend, still is an amazing friend. And she sent me this link to apply for USC. And I was like, there's no way. Like, there's absolutely no way. And she's like, "You don't know unless you put your name in the bucket."
Isn't it funny that that's what you thought though? Because I bet any man in your position would have been like, "Oh, fuck yeah, I got that."
A hundred
Uh-huh.
percent. Men never, most men, I can't say all men, but most men.
In general, and there are studies that back this up. Mhm.
Absolutely. They don't think as their gut initial instinct about
I'm not
why
good
they're
enough.
not good for the
No.
job. They immediately think about how they're good enough for the
Mhm.
job and how they can learn whatever they need to learn after the
Mhm.
fact.
Which is exactly what we should think.
It
And I
is.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's also, I think, why it's so important to have a tribe of strong women
Mhm.
that you're connected with, that you're constantly communicating with.
Mhm.
Because even just having one person that you can ping who will stop that thought in
Yeah.
your mind and
Yeah.
put you on a better track is so important.
Is pivotal, like transformational.
Yeah, like it will
Yeah.
change your life to have
Entire life.
one good person in your corner who will tell
Mhm.
you, clean that thought process up
Yes.
and let's talk about how you would be amazing at this and how you'd be good at it."
Yes.
So luckily I had that friend. She told me to apply. I did. I got the job,
Mhm.
and I've now been an adjunct professor at USC for a few years. And then that actually led to them asking me to create a new course for a master's program that they're building. So, completely untraditional path,
Mhm.
but really having that moment of realizing this is not the life I want for myself. And I'm going to have to make some really uncomfortable decisions and sit in my discomfort and learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's the
That
game of life. I think that's the key to
it
success.
is. It is. Like that's really what changed my trajectory,
Yeah.
because if I hadn't made that decision, I would still be sitting in a cubicle somewhere
Yes.
being told that I needed to smile
Well,
more.
maybe you may have also been in a corner office, but just not aligned.
This is true. This is very true. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me and how I ended up here with you today building this media company and on this podcast and just really on this amazing mission to create content with a new lens that helps the people we want to help.
Yeah, for women like us who want to live our best lives and, figure out what that looks like, how to achieve our most audacious goals, how to take those risks, how to, up level our careers, build our businesses if that's what we're into, relationships, have deep, meaningful connections.
Yes, and take passion in the creative side of
Uh
yourself like
huh.
you're doing right now
Hmm.
and really exploring the depth of what it means to be a woman in this modern world that we're currently living in, where there's so many expectations and so much weight that sometimes sits on our shoulders around what we should be doing. I hate that word should. And what people expect from us, instead of really just opening up our view to get comfortable with what we actually feel happy doing and to own that
Hmm.
unapologetically, 100% unapologetically. What makes you happy? Those are the topics we want to talk about.
Preach. And, as a support and a community for women like us, I think it's really important that we come together, especially now when so much is going on in the world to attack our basic human rights.
Yes,
And, it's scary and it's a time where we need to come together more than ever before and figure out how to navigate this new world and, make the best of not only our lives but our contribution to the world as well.
absolutely. And I think as women who have built their own path, maybe society would have said we shouldn't have been able to accomplish the things that we could have
Oh, yeah.
accomplished,
Right?
you know,
100%.
wouldn't have expected these various
Backgrounds
achievements.
to have come
Yeah,
to this. Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
I think really taking this as an opportunity to just let people know there are so many possibilities out there.
Mm.
You may not be able to see them now because sometimes they're hidden, but
Mhm.
they're out there. And we
Mhm.
really want to make more women of color aware of what's possible, what they can accomplish, what they can achieve. And also just to know that there are people in your corner rooting for you
Mhm.
that you don't even know yet.
Like us.
Exactly.
We are also really passionate about women making money and women really being financially empowered because
Yes.
that's how you empower yourself and then help others and end up, reforming the way you help your community and then money makes the world go around. And so we don't want to shy away from that either. And neither of us are the type of people who shy away from those topics. And so that's going to be something we're going to delve into as well.
Absolutely. So, if you're still listening, thanks for hanging in there with us and hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you are just looking for community, connection, practical ways to level up your life, learn more about yourself, and ultimately feel more fulfillment and more happiness with greater ease, want to invite you to just go ahead, subscribe right now because we are definitely your people and we're so excited to build this community of badass women who are really going to make massive impact in the world.
See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. And don't forget, we still have that really amazing incentive for anyone who's listening to this podcast right now, who is looking for a community with other like-minded women. We want to pamper you. And that's why you have an opportunity to win a spa day at the Four Seasons.
So how do you get entered in? 3 easy steps. First, make sure you're following this podcast on your podcast app. Press that little follow button. Then write us a short review with a 5-star rating. It really helps get the word out to other women who need this content. And then third, share that review. Share your review with us on your Instagram story, but be sure to tag us. It's at Gush Living.
We'll pick one lucky winner on January 1st, so go ahead and get entered right now.
And we'll see you next time.